That's good. Oh, no, wait, move it back. Now I can, now I can see Philip.
That's a good thing.
Are y'all ready? Council will come to order. It is 7 p.m. and we have all members present, including Councilmember Monger, who has joined us remotely via electronics. Is Pastor Brooks here? I don't see him. All right, so in just a minute, I'm going to ask you to stand, and I'll open us with an opening prayer, and followed by that, I will lead us in the pledges to the American flag and the Texas flag. So would you please stand? Gracious God, creator of sunrises and sunsets, creator of happiness and sadness, creator of life, we pause at this time to meet with your divine guidance in this deliberation of our town council. May we be led by your spirit of wisdom and discernment. May we be led with compassion and yet understanding. These things we ask as you guide us through this meeting. In Jesus' name, amen.
Amen.
First, the American flag. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. And to the Texas flag. Honor the Texas flag. I pledge allegiance to thee, Texas, one state, under God, one and indivisible. You may be seated. It is time for public comments. This is an opportunity for citizens to address the council on any matter. The council is not permitted to discuss or take action on any presentations made to the council. Presentations are limited to matter over which the council has authority. You may speak up to 4 minutes or a time limit determined by the presiding officer. Each speaker must complete the speaker's form and include the topics to be presented. You may also submit an email to mayorandcouncil@trophyclub.org. And so I have some people who signed up to speak at this time. If you did not know that you needed to fill out a little form, there's some on the back table at the left side for you to fill out. And the first person who asked to speak was Richard French. Richard, if you want to come forward to the microphone, you're welcome to remove your mask, state your name, address, and you then can talk to us about whatever your matter is.
My name is Richard French, and I live in Hogan's Glen at 30 Cypress Court. Good evening, Mayor, members of the Town Council, and staff. I am here tonight to express a concern that I know a lot of people in Hogan's Glen and many others in our community share with me. That concern is what has been happening to our community month after month whenever we get a heavy rain due to failures in the new town center drainage plan. About a year ago, one of our residents, Dee Barron, spoke before this council, and he provided everyone a DVD with 8 videos showing how each time we have a heavy rain, the storm and water management and pollution prevention plan for the new town center development has failed. Since then, and for over 2 years now, Hogan's Glen has gotten heavy amounts of water, stormwater, filled with silt and sediment every time it rains. As town center construction has progressed, the amount of stormwater has increased to the point that during some of the recent storms, the Trophy Club police have had to temporarily close eastbound traffic on Indian Creek Drive. That's right in front of our entrance. We have video evidence from last week showing this. Many folks have been here for 20 years or more, and they cannot recall how this has ever happened before, prior to the construction of Town Center. This is a problem, and it's a safety issue for everyone in Trophy Club. This continued failure of the PD 30 Stormwater Pollution Prevention Plan has gone on, despite numerous complaints to both the town and the TCEQ, as well as citations issued to the developer by the TCEQ. Despite this, the development has continued to violate town ordinances, as well as state and federal laws regarding stormwater management. During last week's storms, we have videos showing significant sediment from erosion coming from the town center development. It's been entering the town's storm water sewers and dumping directly into our ponds. Again, this is against state and federal laws, and it's not being enforced. What is most concerning is that the town center development has never been shut down due to these failures, or has the necessary work been done to find out what the problem is with PD 30's drainage plan causing all of this to happen. Based on history, what is happening now is only going to continue when the hotel and townhome sections are completely built out. Since this stormwater filled with erosion and pollution never stopped, as the videos that you were provided show, you will understand why our ponds are now full of sediment, and they will need to be dredged. We had a professional survey company come and measure the silt and found that as much as 10 to 12 feet of sediment will need to be removed. One reliable estimate that we received came to over $500,000. That's to take it out, cart away, dispose of it. It is a shame the situation was not corrected when it first started, because somebody's going to have to pay for this. And all of this material entered Town of Trophy Club's stormwater system before it came into Hogan's Glen community. We hope the town council will go back and take a look at these videos provided and some of the letters and complaints that have been sent to the town. There are some significant problems and failures with the new town center's drainage plan that will need to be corrected, as well as significant payment to clean it up. Please help us. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. French. I don't have anyone else wishing to speak at this time. All the rest of them signed up to speak about specific agenda items. So unless someone wishes to speak during citizens' presentations, we will move on. Item number 1, receive Town Manager Norwood's update and provide input regarding the following: the Byron Complex Business Spotlight, and Lindsay Garish is here to talk to us. Lindsay, you have the microphone. And we have a slide presentation.
Good evening.
Good evening.
I'm Lindsay, and just to introduce the Byron at Trophy Club to everybody at the council and attending members, but we are open. We received a certificate of occupancy to occupy our units beginning on May 1st. Now, we still have some units in construction, but it's anticipated to be complete by the end of October. Our property consists of 250 units, both 1 bedrooms, 2 bedrooms, as well as we have 3-bedroom townhomes, only 5, and those are all spoken for, but we do offer townhomes as well in 2 and 3-bedroom floor plans. Beautiful amenities. We have features in our homes, including exterior finishes, GE slate appliances. We have the quartz countertops and split level floor plans. Our beautiful pool courtyard, as you can see pictured, expansive sky deck. So we would love everybody to come by and take a look at the community. We want to welcome you. And if you have any questions about our community, we are happy to answer those for you.
All right, thank you very much. It does look beautiful, and I've been in the lobby. It looks wonderful.
Well, yeah, and you're welcome to come join us. Our rents are average around $19.80, and there's a square foot average of $1,034 in just cumulative throughout our community. Good
All right,
size.
thank you. Council, any questions? Seeing no one wishing to speak. Carla, you okay? Okay, he's okay.
Well,
Lindsay,
thank you for
thanks so
having
much
me.
for coming.
Yeah.
Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Item number 2, take appropriate action issuing proclamation 2020-09 recognizing September 11th, 2020 as Patriot Day in Trophy Club. Whereas many of us vividly recall the precise moment when terrorists killed our fellow Americans at the World Trade Center in New York and at the Pentagon in Arlington, Virginia. And whereas it is with gratitude that we honor the brave first responders, resolute members of our military, and ordinary Americans who showed extraordinary courage to save others. And whereas on Patriot Day, we solemnly remember the nearly 3,000 people who perished on September 11th, 2001. And whereas our prayers will continue for the survivors who still bear physical and emotional wounds, and for the families who lost loved ones, and our armed forces who risked their lives in service to our country, and for first responders who work tirelessly to ensure the safety of others. And whereas the town of Trophy Club will hold a Patriot Day remembrance at the fire station on September 11, 2020 at 8:46 a.m., when all will be asked to observe a moment of silence to honor the victims who perished. And whereas it is appropriate that a ceremony be set apart each year for the patriots and victims of the terrorist attacks of September 11th, 2001. Now therefore, I, Mayor Nick Sanders, do hereby proclaim Patriot Day and Trophy Club and call upon our citizens, agencies, and organizations to unite this month and observe September 11th, 2020 at 8:46 a.m. wherever one may be with a moment of silence. This time I would move the passing of this proclamation. Do I have a second?
Second.
I did get seconds by Carl Munger, I believe, is the one I heard first. Any discussion?
I'd like to say something.
All right, Carl.
I just would like to recognize and thank Councilmember Gerasi, because after the attacks of 9/11, he'd been out of college, away from any military commitment he might have had, and he enlisted and ultimately deployed. So my hat is off to you, Councilmember Gerasi. Thank you for your service.
Thank you, Carl. Appreciate it. Likewise. But thank you.
Anyone else? All right, all in favor of approving the proclamation, show your hands. All opposed, same sign. Carl voted yes, it is unanimous. We're going to take a quick picture back there by the flag, so I'm going to go back and present this, and I'll be back. It is now time for the consent agenda. All matters listed on the consent agenda are considered to be routine and will be enacted by one motion. No separate discussion of these items will be held. Only items removed from the consent agenda will be considered individually. We have items 3 and 4. Does any member wish to remove either of those items? Seeing no one wish to, I would entertain a motion to approve the consent agenda.
Make a motion to approve consent agenda items 3 and 4.
Second.
I have a motion by Councilmember Bone, a second by Garasi. All in favor, show your hands. It is unanimous. Thank you. Item 3, take appropriate action regarding the Town Council regular session. Oh, wait a minute. We just did those. Excuse me. Item number 5, conduct a public hearing regarding a request to amend the Plan Development District 30, PD 30, located at the northeast corner of Trophy Club Drive and State Highway 114 to allow use of exterior insulation finish system, EIFS, on the first floor of the building and as a substitute for required masonry. At this time, it is 7:14, and we will enter the public hearing, and I would recognize our town not planner anymore, I'm sorry, to make a report.
Tommy Uzay, Director of Community Development. Good evening, Mayor and Council. In December, let me digress, Strategic Link, Infrastructure and Development to foster a business-friendly environment. Background and explanation, based on December 2018 council vote that granted approval of a specific use permit to Aloft, a limited service hotel with less than 150 guest rooms within the PD 30 zoning district. The site plan was approved in April of 2019 with mostly stucco facade and decorative fiber cement panels near the entrance. The applicant is now requesting approval to use EFS, the exterior insulation finish system, in place of stucco, specifically on the exterior facade of the first floor. Section 2E4 G of the PD 30 development regulations states that EFS is limited to top cornices, top parapets, and walls on the second floor and above. It also states that the EFS must be hail-resistant or protected. EFS is not classified as a masonry material because it's primarily made of foam insulation and polymers. Thus, it lacks the durability of true stucco, which contains cement plaster. Public notice was published in the newspaper and sent to those who own property within 200 feet of the subject property as required by state law. It has been reviewed by the town attorney, and staff recommends denial of the amendment to the PD 30 that would allow EFS on the first floor of the hotel. At the August 27th meeting, the Planning and Zoning Commission recommended denial of the use of EFS on the first floor of the Aloft Hotel with a vote of 4-3. I'll be available for questions.
Thank you, Tommy. Council, do you have any questions for Tommy?
I've got a question. Prior to March of 2014, EFS was not allowed in any construction in PD 30, correct?
That's my understanding. That was pre-me.
Okay.
All right, anybody else on council have a question? All right, what we will conduct here is, do you have a question for Tommy?
I have just a couple questions.
Okay, go ahead for questions for Tommy.
Okay, so just to be sure I'm getting this straight here, so back in 2018, the town council then allowed them to have less than 150 rooms for that hotel, correct?
That's correct.
Okay, and then EFS is, or any type of masonry system is for second floor, correction, EFS is from second floor and above, and masonry systems from on the first floor, correct?
Right. EFS would be prohibited only on the first floor.
Okay, and so, what do the plans say that was submitted to
They
to
showed
town?
stucco.
They show stucco, okay. Is there anything installed there now that's in the area in question? What type of system is there now?
The primary portion, the most part of the building is the Dinsboard panel.
Okay.
There was a day that I went out there on a complaint based on another owner of another building, and I had looked at what was going on, and they were sanding the foam that was already attached to the northeast wall of the building. When I took a look at it, I noticed that it was down all the way to the grade level from the first floor up.
And so you said something was being sanded, that's a foam that was being
Yeah,
sanded?
the foam is sanded to smooth it out before they put the three layer.
Okay. Is foam a masonry system?
Foam is not a masonry system.
Okay, so right now, I guess what's installed there now is not in compliance with our ordinances, is that correct?
That is correct. Mhm.
Okay. Just to be clear, what was approved by town staff is for a masonry system, correct?
Masonry product. Mhm.
Okay, so something was installed that was not approved by town staff, is that correct?
Correct.
Okay.
All right, anybody else have questions of Tommy? All right, what we'll do is I'm going to allow owners and engineers and whoever that represent the owner to speak to us. Then we'll open that for other citizens, and then we would, if after other citizens talk, then we will close the public hearing, and then we'll go to the next item, which will allow us to deliberate and ultimately vote. So, Mr. Patel, I believe you're here, and if you want to come speak, you're welcome to remove your mask and talk. And if you want to introduce, or maybe I have them, I don't know who's going to talk next, but you can tell me and we'll get them. So your name and address, and then if you want to say something, you can.
Good evening, Mayor and council members. My name is Paresh Patel. The address of the location is 96 Trophy Club Drive. Today I have with me my architect, Ron Smith with Mays and Associates, along with Brent Kennedy, who's the EFS directly sells the EFS product, as well as Chad Henson, who's our project manager for our construction site. So, Ron, would you like to come up? I'm having to have Ron
All right.
kind of fill you in all the details.
Mr. Smith, please state your name and address, and then you have the floor.
My name is Ronald Smith. I'm an architect and an architectural engineer. Enjoyed the luxury of designing the A-Loft for Trophy Club. I kind of specialize in hotels and have done many, many Hilton and Marriott products. We're very excited to be part of the A-Loft Trophy Club. The project was presented to P&Z and PD30 back when we started this process, and we did design the building to be in compliance with PD30 and having stucco on the first levels and EFS up above. During the construction bidding and process, the owner and the contract brought up numerous issues where the transition between the EFS on 2 through 5 and the stucco on the first level was kind of a weak point in the system, wanting to know if we could be allowed to do EFS for the whole building. And at that point, I think we talked to some people at the city and said we would have to go back and get approval, probably go through this process. The original plans we drew were in compliance with PD30, and we presented those, and that was what was bid to be built. You can kind of see from the picture here, this is stucco from the apartments across the way. One thing we can all know with certainty is concrete stucco is going to crack. The stucco shown on the left-hand pictures, those are less than a year old. They're already cracking. One of the reasons that we really enjoy the EFS is a great system if it's done correctly. The current technology of the system is it's a two-barrier system. We have a waterproofing behind the foam. We put foam up that we can sand to get a truly plumb wall, and then there's a barrier system with an acrylic over the top. We think that the problems we see is when you do stucco is a three-coat concrete system, and I've got Brent here who can maybe go into a little more detail, but it's a craftsmanship thing. It's only as good as the guy that puts it up, where EFS is a bit more of a system. It comes out of a system, it comes out of a factory. Pyrex is an international company that is one of the biggest in the world for this type of product. And when you uplight these buildings at night, and when you look at the long-term imagery of the building, with the EFS product, we're able to get a much tighter, smoother finish to the building. When we do stucco, it's again as good as the craftsmanship, and you get the swirling, and sometimes the guy that did the left wall is not as good as the guy who did the right wall. And when you uplight it at night, you may not get the imagery that you're looking for. We're here tonight asking for your approval to let us use EFS for the entire building in an effort to have a very strong product that will have a very consistent, strong image throughout its life. This client, we've done a number of hotels for. They don't build and flip. They own the Hampton Inn here in town and have been part of that for more than 7 years, building it from the ground up. And we've been had the luxury of doing several other hotels with them. We've agreed that we'll do high impact mesh for the bottom floor. The high impact mesh in the EFS finish coat on the first floor will actually make the EFS product more durable than the stucco product that is concrete. You can take a baseball bat to an EFS with this high density mesh, and it does not impact the finish. If we go to one of the other slides showing the building, most of the building is surrounded by landscape. We do have these cementitious panels at the front entry, and we are dramatically lighting the building at night. And we're all here wanting to have a strong building imagery for Trophy Club. EFS is a very widely recognized product that has a long, strong history. It's very commercial. It has 2 drainage systems. We'll have a drainage plane between the 3rd and the 2nd floor, and then a drainage plane at the bottom to keep us consistent. I think South Lake Town Center's hotel is all done in EFS, and that building's over 20 years old now and has held up extremely well. The owner's wanting a long-term solution so that he has a product that is repairable if something happens, because he is responsible to repair it if something happens. And by doing an EFS system, when they go back to repair it, you will not see that there was an error. It'll blend perfectly. When you damage stucco, and it's going to get damaged over the period of time, when you come back and have to scratch coat new stucco in, you're going to see the patch and you're going to see the color changes. We're just trying to build a better product. We think that The contractor and the GC and the manufacturer all submitted recommendations to Mays and Associates when this went out to bid, saying if we could get approval to do stucco, they felt that it would be a stronger product that could, that would have a better drainage plane, would have a, by doing the high impact mesh would be stronger, and we wouldn't have these transition problems. The weak point in the system, EVIS is a great system, stucco is a great system, and Brent sells both. The weakness in the system is where you put the two together, where we're flashing one to the other. That's the weak point, where we would be trying to eliminate that weak point by going all to one system to EVES. We're doing a very modern-looking building with, that is going to be dramatically lit and is going to be in your community for decades, and we want a very strong image, and we think if you allow us to do EFS for the bottom floor in addition to the upper 4 floors, we think long-term this will be a better image for the city. So we're here tonight asking for your permission. I'd like to introduce Brent with Specified Products. He's an expert in the industry, and he sells both EFS and stucco, and has been in the industry for a decade or more. Brent?
All right, Brent.
Hi, my name is Brent Kennedy. I'm with Specified Products. My address is 9101 Charles Street, Lantana, Texas, 76226. Ron, I appreciate you thinking I'm younger than I am. I've been in this business since '88, so I've represented distributors and manufacturers, both from just a sales side as well as from a technical side. So I know these products, both of them, pretty well from a technical standpoint. Essentially, what we're talking about doing is taking the existing designed assembly, which was stucco over an insulation board. One thing that bears some explanation is that in the 2015 version of the IBC, there became a need for installing continuous insulation outbound of the sheathings. So you put a framing sheathing and then insulation board outbound of the structure. It was necessary by code to be able to meet the new energy codes that were part of the 2015 IBC. So in the past, when you would apply stucco through the sheathing back into the framing, it was done at a very short tolerance. It was, the metal lath was directly on top of the sheathing. It was fairly easy to find framing below that. You'd put your fastener through the metal lath, directly through the sheathing back into the framing. It was easily done. The difficulty that we've got these days with stucco over the top of insulation board is that when we mechanically fasten the insulation board through a couple of inches of foam, trying to hit framing back there, which is code required, the difficulty becomes trying to hit framing consistently where you're not putting holes in the weather barrier that's installed on the building to prevent moisture intrusion. So while stucco's been around for years and years and years, the new part of it is that for the last 3 years, we've been code mandated to install it over the top of an insulation board. Doing so creates other water penetration points. What we're trying to get away from in this particular scenario is to install an EIFS assembly continuously so that we're not having to break the two systems continuously and have a flashing at the intersection of the two assemblies. By having one system, one weather barrier, unpenetrated and unbroken, we'll have a system that will perform better long-term from a water penetration standpoint and be code compliant from a building code standpoint. EIFS assemblies since 2001 have changed significantly. A couple of things. Prior to 1997, when you installed EIFS assemblies, they were installed directly to the sheathing with an adhesive. Starting in about 1997, most of the EIFS manufacturers started coming up with drainable assemblies. So we have a fluid applied membrane that would go over the sheathing. Before we ever install any insulation board, the building's watertight. The insulation board is adhered to the weather barrier, so it's not penetrated. You're not sticking screws through your weather barrier like you are with traditional stucco. There's a fastener that goes through traditional stucco every 7 inches, and around window openings, it's about every 2 inches by attaching trims. So you'd end up with lots of penetration points through your weather barrier with traditional stucco that you do not have with traditional EIFS systems that are attached adhesively to a fluid applied membrane. The common perception about EIFS is that it's easily damaged. There are 4 grades of reinforcing mesh that can be used. There's a standard reinforcing mesh that's always used, And generally speaking, on ground floor areas, we recommend using 15-ounce reinforcing meshes. When you install those reinforcing meshes, you now have something that is as impact resistant as Portland cement plaster. When you take a baseball bat to both of those assemblies, you'll cause stucco to crack and shatter. What you'll see with EIFS is that it essentially rebounds. It acts like a trampoline. You end up with a lamina that absorbs that impact and it spreads it out. EIFS, not coincidentally, is one of the few exterior cladding systems that's approved by Miami-Dade for hurricane resistant areas of the country. Galveston's the same way. Galveston recognizes EIFS as an assembly along coastlines where you have missile impact testing that we require. What's interesting is that Texas Tech University does all the missile impact testing for the state of Florida. And they've got these cannons that they shoot into buildings. They'll shoot 2x4 studs into walls. EIFS passes that test with a 15-ounce reinforcing mesh. Traditional stucco, interestingly enough, does not. Those 2x4s will go directly through plaster. So we believe that we're providing something that is as impact resistant as the original materials. We would argue that it's actually more so, and that we'll be able to continue the weather barrier continuously from floors 1 through 5, and do so without penetration points that can allow moisture into the building. I think that's kind of the long and the short of my presentation. If you guys have any questions,
All right, Brett, stay there a minute. Council, do you have any questions of Brett's presentation? Anyone? Seeing no one asking to speak? All right, Chad, did you want to speak? All right. So that's all the people that I had registered to speak. Anyone in the audience wish to speak during our public hearing? All right, seeing no one wishing to speak, it is 7:31 and we will close the public hearing. We will then move on to item number 6. Take appropriate action regarding ordinance 2020-12 for the Plan Development District number 30 to allow the use of exterior insulation finish system on the first floor of the building and a substitute for required masonry. At this time, did anybody on staff going to say anything else before we go on? No? All right. Council, it is up before you for discussion and action at this point. I had several questions, but if somebody has something, please indicate you want to speak and I'll recognize you. Anybody?
Yeah, I'll
All right, Philip?
speak, Nick. So the reason I asked Tommy earlier if this was not allowed in the beginning is because I know it was not allowed prior to March, April of 2014. I was a very young council member, haven't been on council for about 2 or 3 months at the time when what I hope would not happen happened. PD 30 came before us. It had been a very contentious item in town with very vocal opposition. And so EIFS was not allowed, and they brought forth a lot of amendments during that period in March and April of 2014, and one of those being EIFS. And it had just gone through P&Z, and P&Z had recommended denial as on a 4-3 vote, sending it to council. And I distinctly remember being called into the town manager's office, being a young councilman, first time I'd ever, been asked to come to town hall and talk to the town manager. And so there was a series of meetings that took place, and one of the assurances that I was given at the time was that this would never come before council. This would, if you pass this, this amendment that we're gonna do, they said that it'll never come back. Second floor and above will be done. It'll give the developer, the needed thing that he wanted as far as savings and cost savings and things like that, but it'll never come back to you. Well, here we are in 2020 and it's back. So, so anyway, I've received a lot of emails prior to that, I received a lot of bad emails after that vote. I think the vote that night was, at that time, we only had 6 members in council, so it's 5-1 for. The reason that I was originally brought in is because they didn't think they had the votes. And so that assurance was made to me that this would never come back, which obviously as a young council member, you think, oh, okay, it'll never come back. Now, as a jaded council member, I know that those things certainly can come back at any time. So I will be voting no against this because, this was something that the community did not want. It didn't want it, it went through P&Z, went through council several times. EFOS was not a part of that original plan, and it was added at the last minute, again, against P&Z, and this time even against P&Z. And so I will not make that mistake this time. So there you go, Nate.
All right, thank you, Philip. So I have several questions. I'm not sure who wants to answer them. Maybe, Brent, you made the comment that where you showed us examples of the construction methods. Did you present those construction methods to P&Z when y'all presented?
No, sir. We talked about it verbally, but it was through a Zoom meeting, which kind of inhibits your ability to talk to people indirectly with samples, so.
Okay, great. So just stay there. I think the next one is for you too.
Okay.
I think you mentioned that this grade of mesh that is installed in that layering aspect allows for protection to keep the outer portion of the assembly from breaking and chipping. Is a 15-pound or something like that mesh. Is that what is being proposed in this case?
Yes, sir, it is. It's a 15-ounce reinforcing mesh.
15 ounces.
15 ounces per square yard is how it's measured out.
All right. And then is that installation kind of a continuous product? Obviously, there's some seams, but as you're putting the various layers, it's not like it's 4x8 pieces of material you're putting up that are pre-assembled. Is that right?
Yes, sir. All the materials, all the wet materials come out in buckets, and then the insulation board comes out in 2 foot by 4 foot sheets. So in this case, the weather barrier is applied basically from the ground floor all the way to the top of the parapet wall. You would install the insulation board continuously as well. Where we're stopping and starting the assembly versus, with the original drawings having stucco on the top and then eaves above, you'd have to break the 2 assemblies with a piece of flashing, and you've got moisture entry points for those areas. Whereas in this particular case, you would have an insulation board that would run continuously adhesively attached from grade all the way to the parapet cap. And that's where we believe that we gain some extra water tightness. We're not doing this for financial reasons. It is really from a constructability standpoint, being able to continue one system versus breaking 2 systems. So yes, sir, the system would be installed continuously. We would stop the high impact mesh at the first floor, which is in this case kind of high. It's 14 feet or so, I think.
What is it?
It's about 14 feet, I believe. We would stop the reinforcing mesh at that level, and then the standard mesh would go above it where there's essentially doesn't come in contact with anyone. We would also install high impact mesh on any areas that are flat, like sometimes we'll have projections against the wall, trim pieces and so forth. You can protect the edges of those against hail damage, for example, by installing high impact mesh on all those trims. That's a standard thing for us to do these days. So yes, sir, what we would be doing, we'd be protecting those areas from impact resistance by using this higher impact reinforcing meshes, and then doing it continuously.
All right, that's all the questions I have. Michael, you have some questions?
Yes, I have a couple questions here. I guess, when were you guys planning, the project team planning to notify the town that a different product was being installed than what was approved?
Please state your name and address, please, for the record.
Chad Henson, 3200 Riverfront Drive in Fort Worth. We applied the eaves on the east side as more of a mock-up, what it started at, and then they kind of took over and just ran with it before we could stop them. So if you go look on the east side on the first floor, that is the only side that has the eaves on it.
So, okay, so that's all that's installed right now, but,
Yeah. It-
so help me out here though, but Tommy, we didn't know, we being the town didn't know that EVIS was installed until, I think we received a notification from a neighbor that something like snow was falling, is that correct?
That was pretty much the complaint. They said it was snowing, and when I went over there, they were sanding the product down, which, you know, before they put any final surface on it.
Okay.
Throughout the process, and correct me if I'm wrong, I believe it is completed from grade or near the grade to the top on that northeast wall. And at no time was I ever called for any inspections either, so I don't know how it's installed.
Okay, so when was the decision to make it, well, actually, I'm sorry, let me rephrase that. When was the mock-up made?
I don't remember specific dates, 2.5 months ago, maybe?
2.5 months ago. So in 2.5 months, when did the town find out about it? What was that date again?
I don't have the date with me. It's been about September, the week before September 8th.
Okay, well, I guess what I'm getting at here is that.
I'm sorry, August.
August, okay. I guess what I'm getting at here, and forgive me, I mean, just being in the industry myself, you may make a mock-up, but if we're gonna make a change that I know is gonna be different than something we've submitted to the city, I have never in my career not let a town official know that there was a different system that was being installed. I mean, if we were gonna do a mock-up, that was gonna be something that was gonna be taken into consideration. I'm just saying personally, we've always done a mock-up that's been a standalone freestanding wall off to the side. That's just us personally, so I'm just trying to understand kind of how we got here, just real quick.
Yeah, we made the decision to do an in-place mock-up.
Okay, so after the mock-up was made, when were y'all gonna notify the town?
I mean,
Yeah,
Mr. Patel?
My name is Parish Patel, I'm the
Yeah.
owner. They had mentioned it to me that this is what, when we came to learn about going with one system, we were working with Marriott as well. So Marriott came to us and said, hey, why don't you do one system? You doing these two different systems is gonna create a problem. So that's when we talked to the GC, as well as the architect. And I had a meeting with Tommy Uze. I came in on a Friday, I visited with him, and I explained to him prior to any of this happening, saying, hey, this is what Marriott has approved, and we would like your blessing on it. He said, I think he thought it was a pretty good idea. He didn't reject the idea. He said it was a good idea. He agreed, and he said, let me get back to you. I have to check with our attorney if it has to have any repercussions with the PD 30 zoning. At that point, I thought the conversation went really well. So I never heard from him after that. And then I had convinced, whenever McElroy and Falls had called me and said, hey, what's the update on that? I basically told him, hey, last I spoke to Tommy, everything seemed okay. And so they probably assumed that we're good, and that was that. And then I guess we had the snowflaking thing happen after the fact. And that's when I guess they said, hey, whoa, we can't do this. So that's when we came back and stopped and went through this process again. But I did, before any of this happened, I talked to Tommy Uze about it.
You threw Michael.
well, one more, I still haven't gotten a straight answer then. So, I mean, so when did we officially notify the town in writing that we were looking to do something that was different than what was approved in the approved plans?
I didn't do anything in writing.
Okay,
I
but
didn't
what about,
it was in
okay,
person.
so the owner hasn't done it, what about the architect or the general contractor? Has anybody submitted anything in writing to town staff about a change from the approved plans?
I don't
I mean,
think I did not, no.
Yes or no, somebody?
No, I did not.
Okay,
We, when we did the submittal review,
Yeah.
it was brought up to the team that this has to go to the city and be reviewed. At that point, I believe owner went to the city for a second or third time, and we're like, we're gonna have to go back to P and Z and get this approved because of PD 30. Y'all better make sure that, we need to get that resolved before we get too far down the road. This was we want to do this, not, we've been permitted to do it yet.
right,
All right,
all right, I'm done with my questions.
all right. So I have an additional question based on a statement that was made. The wall that's done, as an example, there was a statement made that made it confusing for me as to how far up you did it. So is it just 14 feet or so from the bottom, or it made me think you did the entire wall? Can somebody answer that? Come to the mic, please.
Yes, sir. So from 2 to 5 was already to get eaves.
Okay,
So now it has that whole wall.
okay. All right, so 2 to 5, so then you did the bottom floor or whatever was there? Okay,
Yes.
thank you. All right, anybody else have questions at this time? Anybody wish to speak on the item? All right, the matter is before us. It is ordinance 2020-12. It would require a unanimous vote in order to overturn the denial, right? Is that correct? We have a denial from P and Z?
Yeah, it was not a unanimous.
It was not, they were not unanimous.
Right.
Yeah, they were not unanimous.
So I think it's just a simple majority.
Okay.
Okay. All right, so at this time, I would entertain a motion. Remember that you're either upholding the denial from P and Z or you're overturning the denial and approving the modification to the ordinance. Someone wish to make a motion?
Yeah, I'll make a motion to deny, or to uphold the denial from P and Z.
Second?
All right, so I have a motion and a second. We're up for discussion. Anybody wish to discuss? I do. I think it's a reasonable request. Everything we've heard for years about EFS is negative. I saw some really evidence there that the product and the installation of it has evolved and that there are some benefits from that. Given the fact that floors 2 through 5 are going to be EFS anyway, having it on the bottom exterior, I don't see necessarily issues with. If there are issues of water, denting, chipping, whatever you might call it, that's something that's going to be a maintenance issue and would have to be required by town ordinance to keep things maintained, even if it was stucco. So I would vote against the motion. So anybody else want to speak? Michael?
Yeah. I've used, in my time in the industry, I've used both EFS and stucco. And everything that you're saying, sir, may be correct, but just doing it and not being upfront with the town and not letting people know this was even under consideration, and even having some type of dialogue to go on with the town staff to let them know that we can review this and have ample time to have a third party weigh in, or I just can't in good faith be asked to approve this on short notice when it's been denied, been recommended for denial by town staff and also being denied by P and Z. So I can't good in faith vote for it with my personal experience of the products.
Anybody else wish to speak at this time?
Yeah, I'll just say again what I said before. This is I'm sure this is at least the fourth, fifth time that EFS and that product has come before P and Z at least, and every time P and Z has denied, every time. If you go all the way back to the beginning of PD 30, every single vote P and Z has denied. Several different P and Zs, not the same P and Z members, and so for that reason, I'm going to support the motion that I made.
I have a question of Tommy. Tommy, do you know what material is being used on the townhomes up up in the eaves that looks to be something like EFS or some material? It's surely not, doesn't look like any kind of stone or brick.
It's a cementitious fiberboard.
Okay, all right, thank you. All right, anybody else have any discussion on this matter? All right, seeing no one wishing to speak, I'll call for the vote. All those in favor of the motion to uphold the denial made by P and Z, show your hands. So I have 4. All opposed to that motion, raise your hands. I opposed. The motion to uphold the denial is approved. All right. All right, we will move on to item number 7. Conduct a public hearing on the tax rate of 0.446442 per $100 valuation of the town of Trophy Club. It is 7:50, and we will enter into public hearing. At this time, Mike, are you going to make some comments or presentation or just questions?
No, sir, just here to answer questions. This is the tax rate that we've worked with throughout the whole process, which is below both the no new revenue rate and the voter approval rate. And I'll step aside if there's any speakers.
All right. Anybody wish to make comments or questions during the public hearing? See no one wishing to do so, we will close the public hearing at 7:51 and move on to item 8. Take appropriate action regarding ordinance 2020-14, setting and adopting the tax rate of 0.446442 per $100 valuation for the town of Trophy Club. At this time, I would entertain a motion to approve this in a second.
Make a motion to approve item number 8.
Second?
All right, I have a motion and a second. Any discussion? Anybody in the audience wish to speak on this matter? Seeing no one wishing to speak, this will be a roll call vote. And so I will call your name and ask you to say yay or nay, or yes or no, or something like that, so that we know whether affirmative or against the setting of the valuation and adopting the tax rate.
Too late to go to 22. Yes.
All right, we will start with Councilmember Schaffner. How do you vote?
Yay.
Garasi,
Yes?
Bone,
Yes.
Monger,
Yes.
Sanders, yes.
He said
All
it
right,
with
it
authority.
is unanimous. Item 8 is approved. We will move on to item 9. Take appropriate action regarding Resolution 2020-13, approving the tax roll for the town of Trophy Club for fiscal year 2020-21. At this time, I would entertain a motion to do so.
Motion to approve item 9.
Second?
All right, we have a motion and a second. Anybody wishing to speak about approving our tax roll? No one wishing to speak, we will call for the vote. All those in favor, show your hands. All opposed, same sign. It is unanimous. Item 10, take appropriate action regarding Resolution 2020-14, approving the annual service and assessment plan for the authorized services, emergency services, for the Trophy Club Public Improvement District Number 1, setting the date for the public hearing, authorizing publication of notice and direct mailing, and for everybody's purposes, that Resolution 2020-14 calls for the public hearing to be September 22nd, 2020, during our regular council meeting. Would someone wish to move this?
Motion to approve item 10.
Second?
Nick, is Jill here? Is she? Are we doing I think I say this every year, just to make sure that we are letting everybody know what this is for. She probably is doing it, but I just...
So to help everybody that might watch this, years ago when the Public Improvement District was created, and the fact that fire emergency services were provided through the MUD and the town, somehow we had to solve the fact that people in the PID had to pay their portion of emergency services. And so this is that portion of that. So prior to setting this public hearing and coming up with that emergency assessment for the PID. We've already approved the town fire EMS budget, which is what's used to set that rate for the other portion of the area. So there is a flyer that is going out that Wade is holding up.
Yeah, that's,
Okay.
yeah, and it's always, we always want to make it clear it's exactly the same. You know, everybody pays equal amount. There she is.
There she is.
I saw your flyer. No, I'm sorry. I
waited
I get gun shy.
Yeah, yeah.
Hello. Good evening.
Hey, how are you?
Do we have a flyer about the emergency assessment plan?
You can take your mask off.
As a matter of fact, we do. I've updated the flyer. We'll get it updated on the website and put it out on social media as well.
Thank you.
Cool, thanks.
Yeah, I'm always gun shy that, you know, but that's good. Last year, nobody came and said
Yeah.
anything, so it's very self-explanatory from what you did last year. So I thought you would do it again, but.
Yep, we had it
Just wanna
ready
make sure.
in preparation for this evening.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you. All right, we have a motion and a second before us for the approval of this. Any other discussion? Seeing no one wishing to speak, we'll call for the vote. All those in favor, show your hands. It is unanimous. Thank you. Item 11, take appropriate action regarding ordinance 2020-15, adopting the annual service and assessment plan and assessment roll. Do I have a motion besides Councilman Bone?
Make a motion to approve item number 11.
Do I have a second?
Well, I'll second it.
Okay.
I'm gonna break it.
I couldn't get my mute button unmuted.
Okay, so Garasi moved, Schaffner seconded. Sorry, Sean, but
Well, you threw me off. I was going to do 10, but you threw me off and you said move forward. I was like, what's this, a move forward item number 10 or approve it?
okay. Any discussion? All right, hearing none, we'll call for the vote. All those in favor, show your hands. It is unanimous.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mike. Take appropriate action to reject bids for the entryway monumentation project. Steve, do you want to say anything about it?
Yeah, I'm going to let Wade maybe get into a little bit more of the details, but this is a project that's taken on a life of its own. You know, a few months ago, we came to you asking to reject, and what I had found out was it was not bid properly, so we really had no choice but to reject that. This was bid properly. The low bid is about double what we have budgeted. There's some really bizarre additions that we weren't, you know, we didn't ask for that they put in their bid, which drove those costs up significantly. I mean, a separate bond on each monument sign instead of one just for the project. Engineering each and every sign, which was not cheap. I mean, I don't know how you engineer at those costs. So little unclear on that, but, you know, it's pretty significant. You know, we had an $89,000 bid or quote the first time and about $145,000 quote. Well, the $89,000 didn't include any electricity. There was a lot of items that were left out that would have been add-ons. You know, one thought was, you know, we bid this out in the middle of summer. Well, you have a lot of people with a lot of work going on during the summer. It was probably not wise on our part to bid that out, something that small, during the middle of the summer. Probably would have been better to do that in November through January timeframe, where you get people a little bit more hungry for work. But Wade, why don't you maybe get into a little bit of the details?
Sure. Mayor and council members, as I dug into the bids, comparing the bids that we received through the public bid and the bids that we received originally, what we found is it just truly wasn't an apples to apples bid. And you had to do quite a bit of math to start leaning that out and trying to make it an apples to apples bid to just see if the public bid was just exuberant or if we were missing something in the original bids. And we found it was a little bit of both. As Steve had mentioned, we do have a lack of the electrical piece to the original bids, which we later got a separate bid. Tommy and his shop got a separate bid from an electric company to come in and do that. That was about 20 grand. So you take that plus the 90 basically off the first, and we're coming up with about $110,000 off the original bids that we've gotten. But in the public bid, as Steve had mentioned also, there was a separate engineering fee for every sign, a little over $7,000 per sign. There was a fee for bonding on every sign at a fee of over $10,000 per sign. And in the engineering costs, they called for 12-foot pillars for a 5-foot sign.
Bonding is in glue?
No, bonding as in insurance.
Insurance bonding.
Insurance bonding.
It's Elmer's.
Elmer's.
That's
That's a lot of
Elmer's.
That's a lot of Elmer's.
It's like stucco.
That's right. It's like So there were some things in that bid that were added, honestly, that we didn't even call for in the bid. There was an added fee for irrigation and sod. And then again, like I said, their engineering firm called for 12-foot
Yeah, I wanted
pillars
to come back.
on a
12-foot
5-foot sign. Yes, sir. And when on the original bid, it was engineered stamped as well, and it only required a 8-inch thick slab. So we have some pretty distinct differences there, which definitely points us to this wasn't a great bid for us to be accepting.
All right, I'll move that we reject all bids for entryway monumentation. Do I have a second?
Second.
All right, Sanders moved, Monger seconded. Any further discussion? Hearing none, we'll call for vote. All those in favor of rejecting the bid, show your hand. It is unanimous. It does pass. We do not have any items planned for executive session. Does council have any items that they wish to discuss that were on the agenda in executive session? Seeing no one wishing to do so, we will not have our executive session. And therefore, it is 8:01, and we will stand adjourned.
Thanks, everybody.